Hello and welcome to Robyn Thompson's Rehabbing Houses from Beginning to End video cassette series, designed to give you all the first-hand knowledge and understanding you'll need to turn ugly houses into gorgeous homes. In the next few hours, Robyn and her crew will show you actual repairs in progress, from replacing roofs and furnaces and installing kitchens and baths, to painting walls and laying carpeting. Let's begin here with the headquarters of Home Buyers LLC, the company Robyn founded in 1996, which specializes in purchasing, renovating, and selling single and multifamily homes in and around Waterbury, Connecticut. Under Robyn's direction, Home Buyers LLC has grown phenomenally since its inception. In the last 3 years alone, Robyn has purchased, repaired, and sold more than 130 homes. She has made retailing a science and knows every technique imaginable to reduce rehab time and to minimize holding costs. Watch now as Robyn Thompson, the leading expert in retailing houses, shows you how to transform junkers into cash.
Hi, I'm Robyn Thompson, and I'm extremely excited to have produced these videos for you. I own a company called Home Buyers, and I buy a house a week with approximately $20,000 worth of renovations. I produce these videos to help you, to reduce the holding costs of your properties, to eliminate interest, taxes, and insurance so that your costs are minimal. The other objective of these are to help you learn repairs and what the actual cost should be so that the estimates coming in from your contractor are reasonable for you to pay. One of the things that I've done is I've broken it up into 4 topics. We have the first video on exterior repairs. The second video covers all the interior repairs, sheetrocking, kitchens, and bathrooms. The third video covers all the mechanicals, the structural issues, electrical, plumbing, and heating. And finally, the fourth video are all the cosmetic enhancements that I do to a home to put it in pristine condition so that it is able to sell in a very minimal amount of time with the least amount of marketing cost. The other thing I've done on the last video is I've had many students around the country ask me if they could see what the houses look like before I started and what they end up looking like after they've been fully renovated. So the last 10 to 15 minutes of video number 4 is to show you how bad the properties are in the beginning and how gorgeous they are in the end. All right, let's talk about roofs and get into the exterior portion of our videos. What we're going to do is go look at one of my houses on 31 Academy Avenue. It's a big colonial. We're going to go out to the job site, but before we do, let's talk about squares. A square is a 10 by 10 foot section of a roof, and that's what all builders will refer to. To remove a square of shingles and replace everything can be as high as $300. If you're just going to put a layer of shingles over a roof, it could be around $125 a square. So it's a big difference. So when we're out at the job site with Tom Reef of Pride Remodeling, he's going to show you how to determine how many layers are on your roof. We're also going to take and tear off 3 layers of shingles on this particular house. Going to put all new plywood on, and we're going to re-shingle the outside. He's also going to talk about the valleys of the roof and the chimney for you. So we're going to go step by step through all the components of taking off a roof and replacing it for you. This roof took about 20 squares of shingles, and at $300 a square it came out to about $6,000 to replace it. It is a huge house, about 1,800 square feet. The original shingles are on from the early 1900s underneath, so we're going to go through that with you. So let's go out to the job site now and let Tom start to instruct you on how to remove a roof and how to replace it.
Okay, this is the house we're going to be tearing a roof off on, and we have to get a large dumpster container in the driveway. As you see, the driveway's just been repaved, so what we'll do, we'll take some 2x8 planks, lay them down on the ground, and then we'll set our dumpster on top of it. Otherwise, the wheels will compact into the asphalt, and you'll have a horrible job. This way here, there'll be no complaints from the homeowner, and no repercussions in the end. Now what we'll do, we'll go up on top of the roof, and we'll measure some of the sections and explain to you what we have to do. On first look of the roof, you can see that it's seems to be in pretty decent shape until you get up on top and it's very spongy. Right now there's 3 layers of shingles on here, 2 layers of asphalt shingles, which are here, and there's another one underneath. Then there's a layer of wood shakes. So you have to pull off all the way down to the slats, and you're going to have to re-plywood the entire roof. Measuring the roof, you'd get your vertical and your horizontal measurements and multiply them by each other, and that will give you the square footage of your roof area. And your square footage tells you how many squares of shingles that you'll have to purchase for the project. A project like this is a little more detailed than a normal basic raised ranch or cape house, because you have valleys to contend with where you have a lot of wasted materials. You have to double up all your shingles going through the valleys. You should put ice and water shield in the valleys. On a house like this, all this vinyl siding on the side is going to have to come off, because you're going to be dropping your roof deck level down approximately 1.5 inches. So when you do that, you'll have a gap here. We'll have to pull all this off, start from new using the same siding, and you'll just have to add one more new piece to the top, because all these pieces will drop down to give the correct length, because all your pieces are going to get longer now because of dropping them. What we'll do, we'll go up all the way to the top, and we'll show you that you can see, or we can come down here and you can see somebody did a patch job once before. You can see the distinction in the colors. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish. Maybe it was leaking into the front porch, but they didn't do anything by doing that except making more of a mess than there already was. We'll go up to the top and we'll show you on the other side where the roof has started to cup real bad. Okay, always walking up a valley, never step in the valleys if you can help it. That's where you always end up cracking a shingle and getting a problem. You'll see up here in the valleys where all your shingles are all cupping and falling apart. You can see how bad they are. The job was done professionally. You can tell that up here because of the way they weaved the valley. They came under and then they cross-cut the top seam. The chimney up here is going to have to be off. All the flashing's got to be taken down and reflashed and retarred all over. Okay, a roof this size, we have a 5-man crew. We're probably in here approximately 4.5 days to strip it completely off, re-plywood it all, use felt paper, then roof the whole thing with a 25-year shingle. Approximate cost of a roof this size is about $6,200. It's a little more complicated than your normal roofs because you got valleys on both sides, you got hips in the front with the nose, so it's a little more involved than your normal everyday roof. So one thing you definitely have to do is make sure you go to your local building department, get a building permit. They run so much per $1,000. Your average roof permit's about $48. Okay, you'll see that the shingles here are all cupped up and destroyed. That's from the age of the shingles, probably about 25 to 28 years old. And what that is, that's the heat from inside the house and the heat from the outside of the house because there's no ventilation. Your shingles are just cupping very bad. You're going to notice that there's, here, if we raise up here, you can see there's a second layer of shingles right here. There's no problem with tearing that little piece off because you're still protected underneath the shingles here. That's one of the main problems in the Northeast. Your shingles curl quite a bit because of hot and cold, the continuous weather problems. So your best thing is to rip this entire roof off, put down your sheathing, and start fresh. We are again on the back of the same house. You can see an area approximately 6 foot by 8 foot that must have had a leak around the dormer. The somebody must have pulled off all the siding and tried to patch it in. You could see the discoloration. They tried to line everything up the best they could. They were close, but they didn't know what to do with the vinyl siding. That's why, if you can see, the siding's ready to fall off back there. We'll take care of that when we get down to that point from ripping this. But again, when you're ripping, you start from the top, work your way down. Then when you start plywooding, start from the bottom and work your way up. It all depends on the contractor. Some guys will start from the top and work their way down when plywooding. It all depends on pitch of the roof and accessibility to the bottom. Here we are on our single-family house that has 3 layers of shingles on it. As you can see, there's wood shakes and 2 courses of asbestos shingles. Here we got Edward and Benny working on the dormer. They're ripping off the shingles. We have Chris all the way at the top, banging in nails. Marcos is up there. Right now we have 5 guys on the roof. Normally on a project like this, it's not a real skilled job to do it. They got to take care because the roof is very steep. They could fall off. They take their time. They get it done properly. All the nails have to be banged in. Benny's taking all the old step flashing out from beside the house, and we'll add all new step flashing in. As you can see, Edward has his boots stuck inside the wood slats that are underneath the wood shakes. This makes it a lot easier for him to be able to walk. And now there's no problem for him to go up and down. If it was a plywooded roof, they'd have to set up jacks and everything all the way up. It just makes it a little easier for the guys now. Putting the plywood on is a little tougher when it's real steep. You can see they start from the top, they work all the way down. This way here, all the material just keeps falling off the roof and it goes down into a pile on the ground. When it's all ripped off, we'll have a couple guys cleaning up, throwing it all into a dumpster. They'll be picking it up mainly in garbage cans, wheeling it to the dumpster and tossing it right in. A job this size here to rip off the back, the guys will probably take about 4 hours to rip the whole back off, and it'll take them a couple more hours just to plywood it. And then by the time they're done, I'll be up there, I'll start all the shingles for them, and then we'll grab 3 guys and we'll go straight up the roof line. This way here, everybody knows their job, everybody keeps working. As you see, the shingles come off rather easy. It's the wood shakes that are a little bit more work. Underneath the wood shakes, how they're fastened on is thousands and thousands of little nails. Each 4-inch shake has 3 nails in it. And if you think about it, how many 4-inch shakes are on a roof this size? So you're probably looking at, like I said, thousands of nails. They'll just keep going until they get it all done. They'll rip everything out. Then they'll go back and they'll bang all the nails in. You always start at the top, work your way down. And what they do, they start at the top, cut a ridge all the way down, then everybody can start working into the pile. It just makes it easier for them. It's what they prefer to do. It all depends on the men on the roof. And these guys have been with me for quite a while, and they all just know their job. The hardest part is the valleys, banging all the nails in and getting all the plywood back on the roof. We'll use a machine called a lativator to take our shingles and everything onto the roof. It's a mechanical system instead of carrying the shingles up a ladder. It just takes time, and they're heavy. At the end of the day, the men are dead. This way here, you use a mechanical machine, and it saves time and saves backs. And that's the easier you can do a job, the better off you are. Sometimes the machines are expensive, but they pay for themselves over the course of time. As you see, this roof here, we've stripped completely down to the wood slats. The men have already started plywooding one half of it. Now they're going to finish plywooding over here. They cut the pieces according to size, what they need, and they'll slide this piece down into place, and they'll nail it off every 16 inches on center. Benny will be lining it up on one corner and Chris on the other. You got it, Benny? Yeah. Okay. They'll tack it in place using 8-penny nails, which are about 2 inches long. Then what they'll do, they'll take another measurement over here in the corner, and then they'll give that measurement to the guy on the ground. They'll cut everything and they'll just keep bringing it up the ladders and put it on as they go up. Steep pitches like this are a little more work to contend with. The shallower the pitch, the easier the job is. The steeper it is, it's a lot tougher. As you see, we got to set brackets up here, staging up against the wall. We had to pull all the siding off the side of the house because the step flashing has to all be redone. So it makes it for a much nicer, cleaner job. As you see, we put 7/16 wafer board down, and they'll just keep on going. You have metal in the valleys, which will stay there. Now they're going to try to line up for this last corner piece. Okay, Benny's just running a straight line across the top there so he can get an exact measurement. So when he cuts it in the corner, it'll stay in nice. Edward will cut the piece down there to match in here. Well, the men can take this other piece that's already on the roof and stagger the seams. All seams got to be staggered just for making a stronger, more unified bond into the wood. Okay, you can see Benny's staggered the seam by half the joint. This will give us a better bond to the wood and more consistency. As you see, Benny just walks around on the roofs like they're not there. He's been doing it for many years. And there we go. And that piece fits nice now. We normally would be using an air gun, but the roof is a little too steep and they're using it on the other side to lay shingles out. Okay, a job this size here, we have a crew of 8 men. We have 2 guys that basically stay on the ground cleaning everything up that we throw off and put into the dumpster. Job this size here will probably take us about 5 days, good hard working days. We rip off one side at a time, plywood it and shingle it. And like I said, as we rip it off, we have gentlemen on the ground cleaning it up, putting it in dumpsters. All the siding will go back on after this side is done. We'll re-side the whole piece, all the pieces with the siding that was taken off so the color still matches properly. Everybody has their own job. Everybody rips everything off. Benny's usually in charge of the guys putting the plywood on. We have a couple guys that are just shingling today, and we'll take you over there and we'll show you how to put some shingles on. Okay, here you can see we've already shingled up to this part here. We've step flashed all in our sides down there. We've come up around our valleys. Now we're still working through the valley. And you can see here where we're running what's called a 6/6 pattern, where you start one shingle, you go back 6 inches, which is a tab on a shingle. Then you put the next one down, then you keep going. We'll demonstrate that as we come up with the next 4 courses of shingles. Marcos will be feeding me the shingles. It's easier on a pitch this way here to have a second man with you, and it's also safer. It's just not good working conditions to work by yourself. Okay, Marcos. And you can see here, we're using a nail gun, a pneumatic air nailer, to put the shingles down. It just ends up being a lot faster and a lot more practical because labor is normally your most expensive part of the job. As you see, we can move right along rather quickly. We have to put a soldier course on the edge, which goes a 1/2 inch out from the rake edge, which this brown piece of metal here is considered the rake edge. So we'll adjust that to a 1/2 inch. We'll shoot it in, then we'll continue on with our pieces. Now putting them, just following your eyes, which are the top of the cutouts of the shingles. That's considered the eye with the bottom of the next course. And you always you always place the nail above the eye on the shingle. This way here, there's no water leakage. Otherwise, you could have a problem with the water leaking, and then all your hard work was for nothing. Okay, we've got to the point now where we have to set up another set of brackets. What we're going to do, these here are called roof brackets. They get nailed on top of the shingle. We're going to nail this one right here. What we do is we use 3 16-penny spikes. This way here, you have no problem with worrying about them sliding down, and that's one thing you don't want to do. Safety first. Okay, as you see, this side of the roof we've already stripped. We put our plywood on, and there's our valley. What we did, you always shingle the side that has the least amount of water running down onto it. Here you can see you'll have more water running down onto that side of the roof than you will here. So we take that side of the shingles, we run right through the valley, and we nail on this side, always staying a minimum of a foot away from the valley with your nails, because that is where the common leak starts, and once you get a leak in a roof in a valley, you're in serious trouble because you'd have to rip everything back off, and it's not a lot of fun, especially when you're up someplace that's very tough for working conditions like this one is. As you can see, the paper underneath the shingles there, it's called ice and water shield. It's a very sticky substance. When your nail penetrates through it, it closes all the way around it. It's almost like a tar membrane. And this way here, the water cannot penetrate through it any longer. Here, we're going to place the other bracket over here. This way here, we can put our board back on, and we can continue up the roof line. Remember, trying to place the nails, place your brackets evenly across the roof. This way here, your boards are square, they're each other, and you don't have to worry about them rocking or pulling out as you're going. Okay, now that we have that, what we're going to do, we're going to run 2 more courses of shingles, then we're going to run another piece of tar paper, and we'll go from there. Marcos will hand me some shingles from down there, and we'll go from there. Now what we'll do, we're going to be starting this shingle on one of these lines, on the tab. This way here, we know all our vertical lines are parallel. We're running our horizontal lines with the eyes of the shingles. This way here, there's no problem. We run an electric air compressor. Some companies prefer to use a gas compressor. We only use them when it's in new construction and there's no power on the site. It's much more cost-effective to use an electric one because the gas-powered ones are 3 times the amount of money, and they're just a lot harder to work with. We'll continue across, going through the valley, and again, making sure you always stay a minimum of a foot out of the valley so we have no chance of any leakage, because that's, again, your main concern on a roof is not to have to come back and do it again. What we're going to do now, we're going to put another piece of tar paper up here, and we'll place our board up. This way here we can go right up to the top, and we'll finish out. We've already cut this piece of tar paper somewhat to fit. We'll have to run it all the way out to the edge. Pick up that shingle. We'll run it out to the edge, overlapping it on the last piece of paper. This way here, there's no problem. If you overlap it by a couple inches on each one, you'll never have a problem. If the water somehow gets through the shingle, it will just come right down onto the tar paper, and you'll have no problems. Every now and then, you'll get a roll of nails that are a little twisted, and it will give you a little hard time working with. Always try to stay as much out of the valley with your working feet, with your feet, as everything else, because that is where it's you can't stress it enough. That is where you're going to always have your problems, if you're going to have a problem. And that's one thing you don't need is problems. And you'll see sometimes we also use hand nails. In certain places it's just easier with two guys. One guy's hand nail and one guy's nailing with the gun. That's good. How we'll do, we'll set our other board up here. What we use is all 2x8 lumber. This way here, it's comfortable to stand on. You never have a problem, and we'll continue from here. Okay, on this house here, we've used what's now a conventional shingle. It's a 25-year, 3-tab shingle. In the Northeast, 90% of everything done is used with bird shingles. They make 25-year, 30-year, 35 and 40-year shingles. They make also what's called an architectural shingle, which almost gives you the appearance of a cedar shaked or slate roof. The 25 year is conventional because that's about the most moderately priced shingles. You go anywhere from $10 a bundle all the way up to $25 a bundle, depending on what you want. A roof this size here takes 3 squares to a bundle, 3 bundles to a square. This way here, you'll know it's $35 by the time you do taxes and everything on your shingles. Your architect shingles will go anywhere up to $55 a square, so it gets a lot more costly to go with an architect shingle, but some homeowners really like them and some don't. It all depends on the application. The screwier the roof, sometimes for a homeowner it'd be easier to use an architect shingle because there is no vertical lines to try to keep in contrast with everything going up straight. A house this size here, it's 1,800 square feet of living space. We're going to use approximately 20 square or 2,000 square feet of plywood and roofing materials. Your average for doing something like this is about $150 a square for materials. You have to add in about $1,000 for your dumpster fees by the time you figure your cleanup on the ground and your dumpsters. And just always remember, make sure you pull a building permit and find out what your local code says for you to do. Some places they require you to use the 15-pound felt paper underneath. Some places don't. It's a good idea to use it. Some people think it's bad because it holds the moisture in, but it also keeps the moisture off the roof also.
All right, let's talk about installing replacement windows. In New England, it is real important to have energy efficient windows. So we're going to walk you through taking out an old window and replacing it with a new energy efficient thermal pane. Tom is going to show you how to remove the old sashes, install a new replacement window, replace all the molding around the window, and then insulate as well. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes to actually install a window. It's not as complicated as a lot of the contractors make it seem. So let's go over to Tom and let him show you how to do that.
Here we're going to take and replace this old-fashioned window with a vinyl replacement window. First thing we have to do is remove the stops from the outside so we can get to the sashes. You want to do on these painted windows, you want to cut down between the stop and the trim to score the paint, so when you pull off the stop, you do not have a problem of the paint ripping, and then your homeowner will be very upset, and you're going to end up repainting all their windows. You do the sides and the top, because those are the 3 pieces that have to come off, and as long as you make it score the line deep enough so you can see through, and this way here there's never a problem. The homeowner's happy when you're done, you're happy. You don't have to worry about any mistakes because of just doing things not the proper way. So now once you got them done, once you got them opened up, you take either a putty knife or a screwdriver or whatever. Some of them have, this particular window has nails. Some of them have screws that hold them on. It varies from house to house. Sometimes you got to take a hammer and give it a little help. You know, you got to be very careful taking them off. You don't want to break them because you're going to reuse them. So you just go all the way around the three sides. Take one of the sides off at a time, then take the top off, then take off the other side because they're all in on 45-degree angles at the top. Okay, now that we have our sides off, all our trims off, we'll raise up our sash comes out like that. That's the inner sash. Now the outer sash is a little more work. It has a stop, which you can see right here. You're not going to be reusing it, so there's not a problem with breaking it. So you just take a bar and work it out. Start from, sometimes you can get them from the middle, sometimes you got to start from the bottom. It all depends on the window. Again, you don't have to worry about breaking it because you're not going to reuse it anyway. So just get them to be pulled out and just, you got them all, you got them on three sides. So there's one side's out. Now we'll take out the other side. Sometimes they're stubborn. Sometimes they don't want to come out as easy as you'd hope. But you'll always get them out because there's not a problem, like I said, with breaking them. It's no big deal. Now that we have the two sides out, we'll try to pull the top sash down. You can. Now we'll take the struggle with the sash a little bit every now and then. And there, the sash is out. Now what you'd like to do, you take out your storm window by taking all the components off, the windows, the screens. Take everything off. We do here. What we do, they only have very small screws that hold in the storm windows. So what we do, we just tap on the storm window and we pop the screws. Sometimes you got to use a flat bar. Sometimes you do have to go out. Sometimes you'll get a little trouble and you'll have to pop a screw from the outside. But normally, they'll come right out. It all depends on how the installation was, how old the storm window is. This one's already out, so there's not a problem with that one. Okay, now what we have to do, we have rollers for the weights that hold the windows up. This particular ones are still in. The ropes were broke on the sashes. That's why they would never stay up for the homeowner. So what we'll do, they got two screws in them, regular flathead screws. We'll pop the screws out with a small screwdriver. These here you're going to be just throwing away. An average window of this size usually takes between 20 minutes and a half hour, depending on the ease that everything comes apart. Sometimes you struggle with them, sometimes they're not that bad. The average cost for a contractor to do them is anywhere between $30 and $55 a window. That includes the all the labor and everything. The windows themselves average, depending on the United inches, anywhere from $125 all the way up to $175. And it all depends on your local manufacturer. These ones here we got right out of a lumber yard. We measured them the size. We ordered them. They take about 2 weeks to get in. So They take time, but they're well worth it in the long run. The efficiency of the windows are a lot better than the old ones. You won't have problems with the drafts as long as they're insulated properly. That's one of the biggest things, is making sure everything is insulated properly as you're putting the windows in. Now that your window's out, you make sure your opening is all completely clean, no nails or anything, because that will infringe on your windows going in. So you just go right around, check any peeling paint. You can just scrape off real quick. It's not a necessity. It's just something we like to do. Just make sure everything is cleaned up. Make sure down the sides are good. Your biggest thing is to make sure your bottom is clean and free of any crap, because that's where the bottom of your window will sit down on there, and that's what impedes the height. Here what we're going to do, we're just going to scrape off the real loose stuff, make sure there's no high spots in it. This way here, there's nothing stops the window from setting down into the sill. So there, we're pretty much all cleaned out. Now there's no problem. Now what we'll do, we'll get the window, we'll bring the window over, and we'll get that all set up to go in. Here we have one of our replacement windows from our factory. What we have what's called a head expander, which will go up on top of the window. That will give us the little extra height that we're going to need, because when we order these from the factory, we order them a hair small, because what happens is in the older homes, if the window is twisted or cracked, you'll have a problem getting an exact window in there. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a little bit of fiberglass insulation, and you're going to put into the head expander. It just gives it a little more protection from the elements. Nothing serious. We like to do it. A lot of people don't do it because it's just something else that adds to the time. But it's just something we have gotten used to doing over the years. So what you do is now you'll take it and you'll set it onto the top of the window and just press it down over the top. Now what we'll do, we'll take the window with the bottom down and we'll set it right into the opening. And sometimes you got to give them they're a little snug, which is good. And just push it right in. Now you just got to get up on top sometimes. Make sure they go in. There, now your window's all the way in. Make sure it's out. Now what you do, make sure your windows go up and down easy, which is no problem. Make sure this one goes up and down. Now what you'll do, you pull down the top. Okay, here we're going to put our screws into the side. What we do, we keep the new frame window out to the old stops. We always use a cordless screw gun because it's a little easier to deal with than using electric. We're going to make sure to hold the screw nice and just starts going in. We just make sure that it goes in. We want to make sure we're square from side to side. What we do is do one side, then you go do the other, and we got to do the bottoms. So it's a pretty basic installation. The installation is actually probably about the easiest part of the entire job. The making sure everything is plumb, make sure the window works nicely as it goes up, and the other window goes good. Now at the bottom, they have covers that go over these sections here where you put the screws in. You'll see down on the bottom there's a little hole for the screw. You put it in and just screw it right into the frame and you'll be all set. This particular window, we got white on the inside and ivory on the outside. That's what the homeowner recommended, so that's what we got for her. And then you can get white on white. You can get a few different colors. You can get almost any color that you would like. It all depends on what your preference is. 90% of your windows out there, most people just put white on white because that's a typical window. There, the window's all screwed in. We'll put our piece back on over here, our cleaning stop. We'll make sure the window comes down, make sure it locks properly. All your gaps are even all the way around. Now you can raise the window up, make sure it tips in, which is fine. You can bring it down and lock it in, and you're all set. Now what we'll have to do, we'll have to go around your sides and caulk it all. We'll insulate it, and then we'll put a little bead of caulk in there for the air infiltration, and everything will be fine. Again, all we use is some fiberglass insulation. We take it, we use a little putty knife or a taping trowel, whatever you prefer, and just stuff it right in the sides. There's never, just get it in there just so there's no problems. As you see, goes right in, stuff it right in there. It works out very nice. This way here, there's nobody has, a leaky window is the reason you were changing this window to start with, unless you had all broken windows. So you don't want any leaks now because you just spent all this money, you invested all the money on doing the windows, so do them right the first time. Don't have to come back and do them again. Okay, now that we've got our window in and all insulated, it's all screwed in, everything works properly. Now what we're going to do is put back on our trim. What we'll do, we'll start at the top. We'll make sure our piece of trim is centered on the top. And what we do, we use a trim gun. You can use hand nails, whatever you need to do. We just use a trim gun because it makes our job go a little faster. We'll put up the upper piece of trim. And what we'll do, we'll take and we'll put on one of the side pieces. We'll get it all in, make sure it's in tight to the window. And we'll shoot that one in. This way here. That one's done. Then on the back of this one here, you'll see the nails are still there. What we like to do, we break the nails off. We do not knock them through because what happens is you'll destroy the paint on the other side. And now you'll have to start painting the window over again. Sometimes you'll have to paint windows. On the older house, if you're doing renovations, I recommend doing the windows before you paint anything, before you paint all your trim. So whatever damage you do, you can just correct when you're painting. This way here you don't have any problems. But a lot of times you can't, people don't want to wait. So you just put them in and do the best you can, but remember you can always repaint, so there's not a problem with that. So there, our casing's all on. Now what we're going to do, I like to take and put a bead of caulk all the way around the window. It's just a little added extra for your air infiltration. You cut your tube at a very small angle. This way here, you don't put a big bead of caulk out. You start at the top, and you run a nice bead of caulk down. Make sure it's a paintable caulk. This way here, use a decent caulk. You don't have to go for the $5 a tube caulk. You can use the $1.99 a tube, because all it's for is just air infiltration. It's interior, so you don't have to worry about the rain and everything. Do one side, then do the other side. This way here, you go nice and easy, fill in the crevices. This way here, you have a beautiful window job when you're done. You don't make a mess out of doing the caulk. A lot of people have that problem. Some people can't put caulk on, and sometimes it goes on easy, sometimes it's a little more difficult. What we're going to do, we're going to unlock the window. You can see now we have a little gap here. So what we're going to do, we're going to fill that right in with caulk, just so when it's painted, you'll never know it. It looks nice. Everything's nice and clean. It just happens that this windowsill was a little short. It all depends on the age of the windows and everything, because the size of the window will vary. And Your extrusion from the manufacturer is always 3.5 inches wide, so you have to be careful. Now what we're going to do, we're going to caulk around the seams here just to get rid of the ugliness of what got done when they pulled off the stops. We'll run a bead down through here. And then when they're painted, you'll never know that anything was damaged. It looks very nice. What we do, we make sure we use a latex caulk. Now what you can do, what I do, I just wet the tip of my finger, and I go right down through. By wetting the tip of your finger, it makes it smooth out a lot nicer than anything else. Because of being latex, it's water-based. So now you smoothed it all out. Now you have a nice, clean look. As soon as the gentlemen come in and they do their painting, you'll have a nice window again. Everything looks nice and professional. And the windows are actually one of your biggest concerns. A lot of homeowners nowadays, they'll come in, prospective homeowners will come in and look at the windows. And if they're old and ugly, they don't stay up, you've got sticks holding them up, that'll be one of the first problems people will give you on a house. It's an expensive proposition. Like I said, your average window is going to run you anywhere with labor and material between $150 and $225, depending on the size of the window.
Hi, I'm Dave Moore. I'm with Certa Pro Painters. I'm a painting contractor. I've been in business for about 6 years. Been doing Robyn's work for a couple of years. For the most part, we do a lot of single-family homes. This happens to be a 3-family that Robyn has for sale. What I'm going to try to do is just walk you through the process as far as how we would price a job and then how we'd go about getting the work done. Try to give you an idea about how long it should take and some of the little things that you should look for when you're hiring a painting contractor. Basically, when I look at this job, the major items are preparation, priming, and then finish paint. For the most part, the bulk of the work, especially on a rehab type house, is the preparation. So if you look at the house here, you have all the spindles that are pretty broken up. There's a lot of wood replacement on the gutters. That type of thing will have to happen before I come in as a painter. So I'm really not going to look at that when I'm pricing the work. They'll have somebody else come in and take care of that. When I price a job, the biggest component that I'm looking for is the preparation. So when you look at the house, it's asbestos siding with very little peeling, so there's not much prep there. All the windows will have to get scraped and sanded. Same with all the wood trim and all the wood areas on the building. Again, the asbestos shingles won't have as much preparation. Most of that preparation will be taken care of with the power wash, which is the initial step in the process. So when I'm looking at pricing a house like this, obviously it's large. I need to check square footage, the amount of siding, and more importantly, the amount of trim is going to affect your pricing. A couple other things that you want to look at will be the different peaks. Because the house is so cut up, there are some places that are going to be a little bit tougher to get to. We're going to take that into consideration when we price a job. And I would typically go through the measurement and get all my square footage, all my linear footages, and put the number together. A house like this, just to give you an idea of ballpark pricing, is going to range, depending on the preparation, anywhere between $5,000 and $7,000. That would include all the preparation, the power washing initially, the 1 coat of primer and 1 coat of finish. The reason why we can take this green and make it a white with 1 coat is because we're going to be using spray application. What the spray application does is it's a quicker process, which keeps the labor costs down so that Robyn can get better pricing. In addition to that, it gives us better coverage so that the 2-coat process will work rather than a brushed application, which would probably take 3. So in all, the spray application is going to give us quite a bit of savings. Okay, we're in the back of the house here. As you can see, it's a pretty tall house, and all these porches in the back add a little bit of a challenge. Because of the slope of the ground here and the height, it's going to take a little bit of special equipment to get it, to get my men where they need to be safely so that they can get this thing painted. that's something else that you want to look at when you're thinking about pricing painting. This is obviously going to add to the cost because it takes a lot of time in setup to get the men where they need to be. Otherwise, there's not really much of a problem as far as painting the house. Like I said, the siding is in pretty good shape. There's not too much prep, but the trim, again, is where the bulk of the work is going to be. The biggest thing to think of when you're hiring a painting contractor is that they'll review all of these items with you, give you a solid price up front, and then stick to that pricing. They don't want, some guys are going to add, if they don't look at the house, if they don't detail the proposal for you, you may end up with some costs above and beyond. A house like this, as far as product goes, you're probably looking at about 20 gallons per coat. And then as far with the labor end, I'd probably have 3 or 4 men here for a good 5 to 7 days. As long as the weather was good, 5 to 7 working days, the house should be complete. And that's something that you want to work out with your contractor also, is that they're going to come to the job, begin the job and end, and not start another job before they're finished. Because that'll hold you up and hold up your process on your rehab. So the trick will be to get in and get out really quick, make the place look good, do it at a good price that's competitive, and get it done.
Okay, what we're going to do now is just show you. Paul's going to start spraying the house from top to bottom. As you can see, they've set up all the ladders and they've masked all the windows. What he's going to do is start spraying primer on the top of the house to change the color of the house from green to white. His spray machine has got a 5-gallon bucket of primer attached to it. He starts at the top, he'll work side to side and come down the entire front of the house. We'll start out with a full coat of primer on the house and then come back and do a full coat of finish coat white paint. The outside of the front of this house has taken the guys just about an hour and 20 minutes to do. That was 4 guys working on the front. They have put the full coat of primer on, and now we'll start to move around to the sides of the house, and they'll come back and start painting tomorrow morning after it dries with the white latex paint for the exterior. All right, let's move on to landscaping. I'd like to introduce you to Jason Vargas. He owns Valley Landscaping in Waterbury. He's going to show you what kind of shrubbery you should install. He's going to show you how to plant them and also how to maintain them to make your houses look nice.
We have some small leaf rhododendrons. We have some junipers, old gold juniper, a blue mound juniper, and we have some azaleas. If you go to a nursery, it'll run you anywhere from $15 to $20. To do an area like this, you're looking at probably $250 to $275. As far as installing, what you want to do is once you set up where you want your shrubs, you're going to dig a hole approximately twice the size of the container to plant and 1.5 times the size down. You're going to mix a small handful of peat moss inside the hole, pull the plant out of the container, loosen up the soil around the outside, put the plant in, put the dirt back around it with a little mound over the top so when it settles, it comes level with the ground. Put your mulch around the plant and water it. Make sure for the first week you water them once a day, at least an inch of water. Same thing as far as pruning any of them. All the Alberta spruces, anything flowering, you want to prune it right after it flowers. That's the only time of the year you can cut it back, most likely the end of June, first part of July. Any of the evergreens, you can prune them any time of the year. It doesn't matter what time, you can prune them in the winter, the fall, the spring, or the summer.
Okay, here we're back at our house. What we're going to do, you can see we have plywood here, which we put over top of some studs on the bottom just to fill it in where they used to have some lattice work. And up here they had cedar shakes. So what we're going to do, we're going to put foam on here, and we put the plywood here. Now the foam matches in with the plywood. This way here our vinyl will come straight up and be nice and flush all the way up. Here's our starter strip at the bottom. This is what your siding will hook into. It runs around the complete perimeter of the bottom. You run this level all the way around, making sure all your points line up. This way here, as you're going up on your corners, your siding will line up and you'll have a nice job. I will be putting all our siding strip is already on. We can see it's running nice and level. There's no problem there. And what we'll do, we'll start putting our siding on. Let me go grab a piece of siding and we'll go from there. Now here's our first piece of vinyl siding. This will go on the bottom. This part here is the back of the siding. You can see it has a lock. This will go up underneath the starter strip and lock right in. We'll be putting this on now. A 12-foot piece on a starter strip, you like to have two guys because it's a little tougher to get in than as they're going up. So I have another person helping me now, and we'll slide it down nice, and we'll put it in, and we'll pull up on it, and it will snap in. You'll notice when it goes in because it does snap. Okay, we're in tight here. Now what we'll do, you have little eyes on your panels in the top of the lock. You put your nail in the center of the lock, center of the eye, and you tap it in until it ends up being almost flush. You want to keep it out about 1/4 of an inch to allow expansion and contraction, and you don't want it out too far because what will end up happening is it'll show buckles in your siding. This way here, you put it in, and you tap it right in till it's almost flush, leaving about 1/8 of an inch. This way here, the siding won't buckle on you and everything will work nicely. We'll put nails about every 16 inches apart, all the way down through. This way here, the siding stays on nice. There's never a problem with it. We have no problems. Now what we're going to do, we're at the end of a piece, and it didn't go all the way, so now we'll take a measurement and we'll cut a second piece. This one here, we'll go in and touch the corner post, and we'll come out just to the edge of the lock, which measures 26 1/4, and that's what we have here. And now we'll pop this one on, like so. And we'll do the same thing as putting the nails in the center of the lock, and we're all set. The bottom row is on. Now we'll just move right up the line from there, and we'll have no problems. This way here, back at a house here with two guys will probably take you about 3 hours. Now we're ready to put on our second piece of siding. All it's going to do is the bottom lock will go up and go underneath the lock on the top of the panel, and it'll snap right in. What we'll do, we'll snap the panel in, and then what we do is we slide it end to end a little bit to make sure it's good. We always try to keep it about 1/8 of an inch out of the corner post in the winter. In the summer months, we keep it about 1/4 of an inch out to 3/16, because in the summer, these panels will grow up to 1 inch in their entire length. And if you keep them too tight, they'll end up buckling and they'll look like garbage. And if you're going to reside a house with vinyl, you want to make sure it's done properly. So make sure you read all your instructions. Unless you have a professional installer do it, read the instructions, follow them carefully, because the manufacturer instructions are there for a reason. They're not there to mess you up, they're there to help you, and you'll never have a problem. Some of the stuff they tell you is a little crazy, but follow it anyway, because they will teach you a few nice things about how to do it and do it properly. We missed a nail there. Okay, what you try to do, you try to stagger your seams. You never want your seams over top of each other, because what will end up happening is you'll have a water problem. Always keep your seams apart what we try to do is stagger them from end to end. We never go any closer than 1.5 feet apart. You'll see this piece here has been cut to snap right in here, and it overlaps, which is beautiful. And now we have no more problems. And that's how we hang the vinyl siding.
This now concludes our first segment entitled Exterior Renovations.